Okay, Zok the Hilga Gemara at the top of Daf Nun Gimel Amar Aleph. So we are looking for a makar that the mincha has to be matzah and not chametz. So the Gemara brought a pasuk. Some menachos, the Torah specifies that it has to be made out of matzah, but for all the rest, it says v'anoseres mimenu yoichlu arnu vanov matzos teyochel. If they all have to be eaten matzos, so they obviously are not chametz. So thank you so much. Amar lei mitzvah loy kamiboili. I'm not looking for a makar that lechatchila it's a mitzvah that it should be matzos. Ki kamiboili la'akev. Matzos teyochel that we just quoted is a mitzvah saseh, but it doesn't say that if it's not matzah, it's a pasal mincha. And that's the makar that we're looking for. Amalei, he answered, La'akiv nami ksiv. There's a pasuk that says that it's ma'akiv because it repeats itself, Loi se'ofa chametz, elo matzah. So from there we know it's repeated again. It says matzah teyachel. It says Loi se'ofa chametz. From there we know that it's ma'akiv. Gewaltig. Matzkif lo Rab Chisda. So Rab Chisda had a kasha. Now, we know what sa'or means. Sa'or, we discussed, means yeast. Sior is an intermediate stage. As a dough is starting to become chametz, that's called sior. And there's a shaila if that's chametz or not. There's a machloikis between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir what sior is. Rashi says, Rabbi Yehuda holds that it means if there's already cracks in the surface of the dough, once it's cracked already, that's a sign that it's sior, it's starting to ferment. However, Rabbi Meir holds once it's glazed, once the surface of the dough looks glazed, that already, which comes before it actually cracks, that's a sign of sior. So Zog to Gemara, you want to say, maybe when it says L'shefa Chametz, it means just to exclude Sior. But who said, it says L'shefa Chametz L'Sior should make it Sior, but you still don't see a prohibition against, you still see a chiv to make it matzah. Maybe you could make it Sior. Freit Gemara, Sior Deman. Whose Sior are you suggesting should be how you are allowed to make the mincha? Either Rab Meir, if it's the seer of Rab Meir, were just glazed over, but it's not cracked, will Rabbi Yehuda matzah ma'al. The seer of Rab Meir, Rabbi Yehuda considers matzah. If the surface of the dough is merely glazed or shiny, that would not be even a sign of seer. That's pure matzah. So that for sure is going to be no problem. And either Rabbi Yehuda or Rab Meir. And if we're talking about the seer of Rabbi Yehuda, that means it already has cracks. According to Rabbi Meir, that's not even seer, it's chametz ma'al. That's pure chametz. And either Rabbi Meir, and if we're talking about the seer of Rabbi Meir, meaning it's glazed over, but according to Rabbi Meir, who holds that seer, Zok to Gemara, midalaki alei chametzu. Since you do get malchus for having such chometz on Pesach, so that's a sign that it does have a din of chometz, and therefore lo se'ofa chometz includes chometz and includes this. Ella de Rabbi Yehuda le Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe our whole shaila is according to Rabbi Yehuda, where siur has cracks in it. That's not considered chometz yet. It's in the middle, and that's what the question is. Loi se'ofa chometz ela sior. Maybe when the Torah says loi se'ofa chometz, maybe you are allowed to have a mincha that's made out of sior. Maybe it doesn't have to be mamish matzah. So that's kasha number one. The Gemara has two other kashas. Matzka for Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak. Ve'ema loi se'ofa chometz ela cholot. Maybe what the Torah is telling you is don't prepare the mincha as chometz, but rather as cholot. Cholot means it's either sprayed with boiling hot water or it's plunged into very hot water, similar to the way they make a bagel. And maybe that's what the Torah is telling us, that that's how you prepare the mincha. You could make it chalot. Chalot mani. What is chalot? Revicha. That's referred to as revicha, which some menachos, it's specified that they have to be merubeches. Id ike revicha ksivba. Id ike revicha ksivba revicha. If it's a mincha, Zok Rashi, that the mitzvah is to prepare it in this fashion. It says it. It says befeiros. So if it's a mincha that needs it, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But in the mincha where it says l'sheva chametz, it doesn't say revicha. So frag the Gemara, okay, but it's still shver because the emer diksiv be revicha mitzvah be revicha. Maybe the menachos where the Torah specifies it has to be prepared in this fashion. That's the way it has to be specified. But if it doesn't say revicha, so once again, when it says maybe it's telling us that you could make it b'revicha. You have a choice. You can make it b'revicha or b'matzah. How do you know? You can only make it matzah and not b'revicha. Kasha number 3. Maska v'lo ravina. Is lamekim gavra belav bialma v'yivsula mifsula. Maybe it doesn't tell you that the carbon is possible. Maybe it's just telling you that if you bake it chametz, you'll be over a lav. We're looking for a meforshim makar that the mincha is possible if it becomes chametz. So once again, the loy seyafa chametz is not enough of a makar that the mincha is possible if it's chametz, because maybe the Torah is just telling us loy seyafa chametz, but you can make it seer, like according to Rabbi Yehuda. Or loy seyav chametz, or you could make it revucha, or loy seyav chametz, it's a lav, but it won't possible. How do you see in the loy seyav chametz that a mincha that's prepared as chametz will be possible? Ela minolan, you want to find another makar that a mincha that's prepared chametz will be possible. Kiditanya, matzah, the mincha needs to be matzah. Yochel mitzvah, I would have thought it's only a mitzvah l'chatchila, but not ma'akev b'diavad. Talmud loimer tiyeh. A lashon avaya is always a lashon of b'diavad. Hakosov kova chayva. So let's look at the psukim inside now. The pasuk says, "Ve'im mincha al hamachlas karbanecha soilas belula b'shemen matzah tiyeh." So matzah tiyeh is the pasuk from where we know that the mincha must be prepared as matzah, not as chametz, and tiyah means it's going to be ma'akev. So that is our maskana of how we know that a mincha must be prepared as matzah and not as chametz. Zok Gemara weiter. Boy minei Rav Preda me Ravami. This is a little bit of an interesting story. Rav Preda asked Ravami the following shaila. Minayin lechol hamanachos sheni loishois befoitrin. When you get water, you use warm water or tepid water, not cold water. Now, if you use water that's not cold, it could make it chametz much faster, and therefore umishamran shelo yachmitzenu. And you have to work the dough. Mishamran Rashi means physically working it so that it shouldn't become chametzik. Now we know that we get mayim shalonu when we make our matzahs for Pesach. And mayim shalonu means it's water that was left overnight. The reason why the water has to be left overnight, believe it or not, is to cool it down, which would reduce the chance of it becoming chametz. But by the mincha, they were specifically required to use warm water, and that puts it into the danger zone of becoming chametz, and therefore they have to work it the whole time, not let it sit at any moment, so that it shouldn't chas v'sholom become chametz. Zok to Gemara, where do we know this from? Nil medanami Pesach. If you want to suggest that the makar of this halacha is from the Korban Pesach, the makar that you have to constantly work the dough so that it shouldn't sit idle and chas v'sholom become chametz. If you say you learn it from the halacha of Pesach, where it says in the Torah, "Ushemartem es hamatzos," watch the matzos. It doesn't mean stand there like a goyim and look at it. It means you should work the dough the whole time so that it cannot become chametz. Omar lei Begufa ksiv. We don't learn it out of the matzos. We actually have a pasuk mineu bei by the mincha that tells us that you have to work the dough to make sure it doesn't become chametz. And where does it say that? It says matzah tiyeh, which is the pasuk that we just used a moment ago to tell us that it has to be matzah and not chametz. Hachiyah. Hachiyah means work it. Actively prevent the klemer hachshirena v'shamra. You should take active actions. You should take proactive actions to prevent it from becoming chametz. Right to Gemara, how could you tell me that that pasuk tells you that you have to work the dough? We already said that we need this pasuk to teach us the main halacha of tiyah, that it's going to be possible if it's chametz. We have two yiturim here to be harnessed, because if we just needed to know that matzah is la'akev, in kein lichter kro matzah he, the word could have been he. He also is a lashon havaya, which would indicate that it's ma'akev. My tihiyeh. Why does it say matzah tihiyeh? That's an extra yitur, shemami notarti. We can also extract from here that there's a special mitzvah to actively work the dough to make sure that it will not become chametz. Amar le Rabbanan le Preda. Reb Preda was sitting and learning in the Beis Medrash, and someone approached the Beis Medrash and wanted to come in and speak to Reb Preda. So they told Reb Preda, his Hasidim, his Talmidim, told him, Reb Preda, we have a very illustrious guest over here. You know what his name is? His name is Reb Ezra Bar Barei, the Rebbe of Tulos. Reb Ezra, the grandson of Tulos, who happens to be Tuhu Asiri le Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. I'm not sure if Reb Ezra was the 10th generation to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, or if Rabbi Tulos was 10th generation to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah do Asiri le Ezra, and he was the 10th generation from Ezra Sofer. In other words, Reb Preda, there's someone here who is a very choshev meyuches tikiyid. He has gewaltige yiches, and he has gewaltige yiches. We should let him in. You should hear what he has to say. Koyabova, he's standing at the gate. Omar, he said, my kulahai, I don't understand why you're making such a big deal about his yiches. Mimonavshach. Ibar Oryan, if he himself is a Ben Torah, he himself is a Talmid Chacham, yoi, then he's good. Zog to Gemara, Ibar Oryan, Ubar Avon, yoi, and if he is a Talmid Chacham and he's the son of a Talmid Chacham, so he's a Talmid Chacham who's continuing on in the footsteps of the tradition of his family, yoi, it's also very good. But the Ibar Avion, the Loibar Uryon, but if he's the son of a Talmid Chacham, but he himself is not a Talmid Chacham, Isha Tachle, he let him be eaten by fire. In other words, who needs him? He is of no value. It's very interesting that when someone comes, can you imagine if every time we went to the Rav asked that question about us, I wouldn't want to know the answer. Amrle, they told him, Bar Uryunu, don't worry, he's a Talmid Chacham. Amalu Leol Velasi. So there's actually a lot of Torah about this discussion because it's like a wild situation. So it could be where Freda was trying to say that if he's not a Talmid Chacham and he's the children of Talmid Chachamim, then he deserves to be scorned because he should have known better. He had access to all of the Torah in his family and the tradition of his family, and he departed from it. And if he's a Bar Uryon and his family is not a Bar Uryon, then he deserves true praise because he did it on his own. And if he's a Bar Uryon, but his family was also a Bar Havon, then that's good, but it's not as good as someone who on his own did it. But I'll call upon him, he said, as long as I know that he's a Talmid Chacham, he's learned, Leo Valaisi, bring him in. Zog to Gemara, Chazya, the Hava Akira Daite. Now there's actually a Shaila the Rishonim who was upset. So Rashi learns he saw that Reb Ezra, Chazar of Preda, Reb Ezra, that he felt bad, I guess, because of that scrutiny that Reb Preda was putting on him. There are actually some Rishonim who learn Pugvakert. Reb Preda felt bad that he was a little bit hard on Reb Ezra, so he felt bad. So then Pasach v'Omar is either Rav Preda talking if it was Rav Ezra who felt bad, or it might be Rav Ezra talking if it was Rav Preda who felt bad. And he said as follows: Omar Lashem Hashem Ata. I told you this is Klal Yisrael talking to Knesset, to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Knesset Yisrael talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom. You're my God, but Tavosi Balalecha. I don't owe you anything. You did nothing good for me, which is a very difficult pasuk to understand. That Klal Yisrael will tell Hakadosh Baruch Hu, you did nothing for me. So the Gemara darshans the pasuk. Amra Knesset Yisrael lefnei Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Knesset Yisrael told Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom hachzik li tova. The truth of the matter is, Rabbanan Shalom, you owe us a little bit of a thank you. Why? It's us. We are the nation that exalts your name in the world by practicing Yiddishkeit. B'mesiras nefesh, we are publicizing and exalting your name in the world. So kommt uns etwas for them. Amar Allah, so it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu responding to Klal Yisrael. Tevasi balalecha. I don't owe you anything, because you're not the people that really exalted my name. You know who gets the credit for it? Eini machzik toiva elo Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, shahadi unu tchila ba'olam. They did the heavy lifting. They were the ones who got my name out when no one knew about me. Shenemar, as the pasuk continues, l'kdoshim asher ba'aretz. Hema, the great kedoshim, meaning the Avos HaKdoshis, Ba'direi, and they're strong ones, Kol Chaftibam, those are the people who I love, those are the people that really publicized my name in the world. So the point that he was making here is that even though we're big Talmidei Chachamim, the main heavy lifting was done by our fathers. So he was trying to make him feel better why he was focused so much on Rabbi Ezra himself being a Talmid Chacham, because most of the time, whatever we are, the credit goes to our forefathers. Now, either Rav Preda is talking, let's learn like Rashi that Rav Preda is talking. So when Rabbi Ezra heard Rav Preda merely mention the word Ve'adirei, he jumped up, because he had a beautiful word to share on the word Adirei. Kivin Neshama Dekama Adir. The moment he heard the name Adir mentioned, Patzach v'Omar, he said, I have a beautiful shtickle Torah once we're on the subject of Adir, not Adar. Otherwise, we would have the bleeding strikes again. We're learning about Adir, right? Patzach v'Omar, Yovay Adir, and we're about to get to the famous Avram Fried song, Yovay Adir, the Adir should come, v'yifra la'adirim, and he should punish the on behalf of the Adirim, me Adirim from Adirim, be Adirim in Adirim. What does this mean? Yavai Adir, the great should come. Who is that referring to? Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Chsiv, it says in the pasuk Adir b'morem Hashem, for Yifra Adirim, and he should punish on behalf of Klal Yisrael. Elu Yisrael, Hashem is going to fight our battle. Shenemar v'adirei kol chaftibam, and that's also a continuation of the pasuk that Rav Preda had already quoted. Me adirim, Hashem should punish from the adirim. Elu hamitrim, Hashem is going to take a pound of flesh out of the mitrim. He's going to punish the adirim. How do you see that the Mitriim are referred to as Adirim? The Chsiv Tzolalu Kaiferes B'mayim. Who was Tzolalu Kaiferes B'mayim? Kama Adirim. The great Mitriim, they were flopping around in the Yam Tov. These Adirim were flopping around in the Yam Tov like Kaiferes. And Be'adirim, what was the medium in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this? With water. Elumayim, that was in the waters of the Yam Tov. Shenemar Mikailos Mayim Rabim Adirim Mishperiyam. And now we're up to the Avram Fried song. I would try to sing it, but it's not going to happen because I'm very hoarse. Yava, you did, Ben you did, V'yivna, you did. You know the song? You never heard that song from Avram Fried? It's a very famous song. So we need singers to publicize Gemaras, talking about who Hashem credits for publicizing his name. The Gemara has to credit contemporary singers for publicizing their words. So Yava, you did. Ben Yedid, the friend, the son of the friend, V'yivna Yedid, he should build Yedid, Li Yedid for his friend, Bechelko shall Yedid in the chelik of Yedid, and V'yiskapru bo Yedidin, and Yedidim will get a kapara through this. So what is this cryptic message? Yavo Yedid Zeh Shlomo Melech. The Yedid that's going to come is referencing Shlomo Melech. Dichsiv Vayishlach biad Nosan Hanovi Vayikra Shmoy Yedidya Ba'avur Hashem. So now I know that Yedidya is really the name Shlomo, right? Because Yedidya was the name of Shlomo Melech. Ba'avur Hashem. Okay, Yavo Yedid. Ben Yedid. Why was he Ben Yedid? Zavram. He's Shlomo, the enical of Avram Avinu. Dichsiv, where do you see that Avram Avinu is referred to as a Yedid? It is Mal Yedidei Bevesi. Now this pasuk, the Gemara is going to darshan shortly, but it means that during the Churban, well, in this case it does. And the Gemara is going to tell us soon that during the Churban, Avram Avinu was crying in the Beis Hamikdash on behalf of his children. And that's what this pasuk is talking about. Hashem asked Avram, "Ma yedidi lebeisi? What are you doing there?" The Yivna Yedid, and he will build the Yedid. So Yedid ben Yedid, referring to Shlomo, who's the enical of Avram Avinu, will build a Yedid. What does the Yedid mean? It's a Beis Hamikdash. Yedid also refers to the Beis Hamikdash. T'chsiv ma Yedidais mishkanoi secha. Li Yedid, he's building a Beis Hamikdash for the Yedid, for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Yedid ze HaKadosh Baruch Hu d'chsiv Ashira na liyedidai, and where was this Beis Hamikdash built? Bechelkoi shel Yedid, in the chelik of Binyamin ze Binyamin, shenemar li Binyamin Amar Yedid Hashem Yishkoin levetach alav v'yiskapru bo Yedidim, and the friends will become niskaper elu Yisrael. T'chsiv nosati es Yedidais nafshi bekaf oiveha. I put my loved ones in the palm of their enemies. That's Klal Yisrael being given over to enemies. Period. Now we're going to have another similar type of expression. Yovai toiv, v'yekabel toiv, mi toiv, la toivim. Yovai toiv, who's going to come? Is Moshe. Dichsiv, vatar oisoi ki toivu. Right when Moshe was born, it says that she saw that he was good. And Rashi says over there, because the Smali Abai Smali Ora, the room or house lit up when Moshe was born. The Kabel Toiv, Zutayra, Moshe will be Makabel the Torah. Techsiv ki lekach toiv nusati lachem. Mi toiv, he's going to get it from toiv, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Techsiv toiv Hashem l'chol. Toiv Hashem l'chol. Barachim v'al kol asav. We have a lot of Lublinis today, because we say Ashrei every day a couple of times. La toivim, Elu Yisrael, Techsiv etiva Hashem la toivim. Another similar expression, Yavoy zeh, v'yekabel zois, mi zeh, zeh will come, will be bekabel zois, from zeh, la'am zu, for this nation. What does that mean? A similar expression to what we said a moment ago. Yavoy zeh, zeh Moshe, t'chsiv ki zeh Moshe ish, that's by the ego, when Moshe was delayed in coming down, v'yekabel zois, zu ha-Torah, t'chsiv v'zois ha-Torah asher so Moshe, mi zeh, Moshe will be makabel the Torah from zeh, zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, d'chsiv zeh keli v'adveyu, la'am zu, for this nation, elu Yisrael, shenemar am zu kanisa. Amar B'Yitzchak, b'shah shachar of Beis HaMikdash, now we're going to delve into the pasuk that calls Avram Avinu the Yedid of Hashem. B'shah shachar of Beis HaMikdash, matzu HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'Avram, shoyu oimed b'Beis HaMikdash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu found Avram Avinu in the Beis Hamikdash. Amalo, he told him, Mal Yedidi Bevesi, what is my good friend doing in my home? Amar loy al iske banai basi. You know why I'm here? I'm here to save my children, because you want to throw them into Golus. Amar loy, Hashem told Avram, with all the respect, Banecha chatu v'golu. They did Averis. They deserve the Golus that they're in because they did Averis. Amalai, of course, Avram Avinu is fighting for his children. He said, Shema b'shoigig chatu. Maybe their Averis were b'shoigig and they're not deserving of Golus. Amalai, the pasuk says, Asoisa hamzimosa. They did b'mezit. Amalai, so Avram asked, Shema mi'utan chatu. Who said that they were all chayte? Maybe only some of them were chayte, and you only want to throw everybody out because of Kol Yisrael Ma'arevim, but that's not them actually doing that there. Amalei no harabim. So Avram came back and said, Haya lecha liskar bris milah. Why didn't you remember the bris milah, the schus of bris milah? Avram Avinu says the schus of bris milah, referring to. Oh, it's not Rashi. I think it's a child referring to Avram's milah or Yitzchak's milah. Amar loy ubasar kodesh yavru me'alecha. They took away the basar kodesh, and there's a shaila if this means they stopped being Mekayim the mitzvah of milah, or if it means that they would pull their skin back over to make it look like they were in Moho. So they're not proud of their bris anymore. I can't save them because of that. So Avram said, still, Shema imim tanta lahem, why are you rushing to judgment? Give them some time. They'll probably come around and they'll do tshuva. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I don't think so. Ki rasichi oz taloizi. So this is the whole pasuk. Let's read the pasuk inside. Mali did bevesi asoy hamzamasa. They did it bemezid. Harabim the rabbim of Klal Yisrael did it. Ubisar kodesh yavru me'alecha. They violated the bris milah. Kira oschi or kira sachi. I can't see it so good. Os taloizi. When they would do bad things, they wouldn't feel bad about it. They would party, as it says when the Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the luchos. And it wasn't just that Klal Yisrael was doing the egel. They were partying, they were celebrating, they were excited with their Aveira. Now there's no hope anymore. I once heard a class from a famous Rav in Brooklyn. His name is Rav David Cohen. He's a big posek. I'm not sure if he's still alive, but he was a big posek. And he gave us a class. Lakewood, in conjunction with Barrel Wine, developed a rabbinical training course. If you got smicha, then you were entitled to go into this course. It was an 18-month course. They brought us very fascinating speakers, and then at the end of those 18 months, they expected you to take up residence in a remote area to be a Rav. So it's similar to Chabad, yeah. And we'll get to the epilogue of that story a different time. So one of our speakers was Rab David Cohen. So Rab David Cohen told us that I say a shir once a week in Long Island, and I say the shir to Rabbanim of shuls that are primarily not from. So the Rabbanim are from, they come to my shir, but their congregations are not from. And I remember, he said, I gave a shir the week that they established Congregation Simchas Torah in Manhattan. And that was the first gay synagogue. And they challenged me, Rabbi, what do you think of that? So I told them, I don't understand. They're a congregation whose members are Chayiv Skila. They're over Mishkav Zocher. But frankly, your congregants are Mechalel Shabbos. So they're also Chayiv Skila. So what? I don't see the difference. So he said they were all taken aback. Like, whoa, that's like an assault against us. So he said, but I'll tell you the difference. The difference is, I've not noticed that any of your shuls has a big sign on it, Congregation Mechalel Shabbos. That's not the source of your pride. But their banner that they're proud to advertise is that they're Chai V'Skila. He says, if someone does an Aveira, even if your Kehillah has people who are Chal Shabbos, but that's not what you stand for, that's not what you're proud of, you're embarrassed about it. You have a hope, you can do tshuva. If you become red-faced from humiliation because of the Averis that you did, Hashem will be moichalos. The mere fact that we feel bad that we did an Aveira, even after we did the Aveira, and we're not celebrating and exciting with our Aveira, that in itself is a kapara. But this synagogue, they deserve to be condemned because that's their banner. That's what they're proud of. So that's exactly what this pasuk is saying here. I see they are excited with their Aveiros. That's condemnable. That's no hope for them. What's that? That's right. So they will never be able to come back. So miyad hiniach yadav al roishai, Avram Avinu put his hands on his head, and he was crying. Is that it? Is the future of Klal Yisrael completely destroyed? No. Zeis Ranon. Klal Yisrael is compared to an olive. Yefei pri toyar kara Hashem shemecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu calls us a Zayis Ranan. Why? Ma Zayisu Acharisoi B'Soifai. And there's two pshatim in this. Either Acharisoi B'Soifai means nothing ripens and then suddenly the whole tree ripens together. That's one pshat, meaning all the way at the end, everything will work out and it'll happen karafayin that we'll all end up doing tshuva. That's one pshat. And the other pshat is, the first pshat of Rashi is that a zayis, it takes a very long time for it to grow pears. But once it grows pears, it grows with a vengeance. So Af Yisrael lacharisam b'soifan, all the way b'soifan l'doros, we're all going to do tshuva and we're all going to come back and we'll be nigal. So there's hope for us. Just because it looks very bad, it doesn't mean there's not tremendous hope for us. L'koil hamula. Let's look at this pasuk inside because we're going to be darshaning it. It says over here, are we on this? This is nun, I believe. So let's see where the nun is. Zeis ranon yefei pritoyar kara Hashem shimcha. And now lakoil hamula gedoyla hitzis eishaleh v'ro d'liyosef. So the Gemara is going to be darshaning now the rest of this pasuk. So zok the Gemara lakoil hamula gedoyla lakoil hamula gedoyla hitzis eishaleh v'ro d'liyosef. Amar b'chinim bar papa lakoil mileyen shel meraglim. About the words, because of the words of the Meraglim, which cried in vain that we're not going to be able to take over Eretz Yisrael, the branches of Klal Yisrael got weakened. They said a very big bad thing. What did they say? We cannot take over Eretz Yisrael ki chazak hu mimenu. Pasha teaches that the land of Eretz Yisrael, the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael, are greater than us. But that's not what they meant. What they meant was, it's too big for Hashem. Hashem is not powerful enough to get us into Eretz Yisrael. Shafilu balabayis, even the balabayis, referring to the Rebbeinu Shalom, he won't be able to get them out and get us in. He's not capable. It was often the kfir. That was the avla of the Meraglim. So if that's the case, why does it say lakoil hamula, meaning the koil of the Meraglim, lakoil hamula gedoyla? It should say lakoil mila miboyle, the koil of their words, not mula. Ella, what it means is amalak Kadosh Baruch Hu Avram, koilcha shamati. I heard your voice. V'chamalti aleim. So lakoil hamula gedoyla hits eshaleh means fakert. Hashem heard the words of Avram and hamula miloshin chemla v'chamalti aleim, and I had rachmanas on you. I guess the hey and the ches is interchangeable. Well, how did I have rachmanas on you? Because ani amarti yishtabdu ba'arba malchiyos kol achas va'achas kishir arba malchiyos. I originally decreed upon Klal Yisrael that they should go into 4 consecutive galiyos. Each one of the galiyos are as long as our long galiyos that we have. Meaning our galiyos was really supposed to be 4 times as long as what we're going through. Now, hashakol chada v'chada ma'ida pasikla. Now each one is only going to get their own galiyos. It used to be they were all going to have super long galiyos. Now it's going to go back to the original plan that there'll be 4 smaller galiyos. The Yigad Amri, ani amarti bozeh chazeh. Originally I said that they're going to be consecutive galiyos, which will be making very long galiyos. Achshav b'vasachas, I'm going to allow the different malchuyos to share control over Klal Yisrael like we are today in many different countries, and it will be a concurrent galus, a concurrent subjugation to other nations. Amar B'Shuban Levi, Lama Nimshlu Yisrael Azayis. Why is Klal Yisrael compared to Azayis? Loy Melech to teach us. Ma Azayis ein olav noishrin. Loy b'maisachama v'loy b'maisachshamim. The olive is like an evergreen tree. It never shears its leaves. Af Yisrael ein lahem b'teila ilamis. We will never be destroyed. Klal Yisrael, one of the greatest nisim of Klal Yisrael is that we're still around. Loy b'olam hazeh, b'olam haba. Ernest Hemingway read a whole shtickle how the Jews are unbelievable. We defy nature. The greatest nice that ever happened is that we're still around. V'yomer Rabbi Yochanan, lama nimshlu Yisrael azayis, loy melach, ma'azayis ein amoyt shemnoi, el al ketisa. The olive, if you leave it resting, you're never going to get oil out of it. You got to crush it. Af Yisrael in Choshen Lamutav Elai Yisurin. Klal Yisrael needs a little bit of a motivation. We need a little explanation. With Yisurim, we'll all end up doing tshuva. It's brought down that before Mashiach comes, everyone's going to do tshuva. So there was a discussion of how do you get Sa'ar in there without going over the exact amount of an Isarin. The problem was, Meir said that if you're going to take Sa'ar from the outside and try to just put the Sa'ar on top, put the flour on top of it to get to an Isarin, the concentration of flour in that Sa'ar might not be the same level of concentration as the flour itself, and you might have either more than an Isarin or less than an Isarin. Amar B'chista, Isas HaSa'ar Ava, if it's a thicker concentration, Nimtes Yisera Midas Harisarin. It'll turn out that we actually have more flour than we're supposed to. Raka, if it's a soft type of dough and more water in it, Nimtes Chasera. Frankly, who cares? Soif ki kachayel li sarin kachayel. What's the difference? At the end of the day, you take that sa'or, fill up the rest with flour, and you'll have an isarin. Who cares about the concentration of the flour in it? We're just looking for an isarin. So, Rabbi Yosef Damar Tavayu l'chamoy shahein hoisa misharina. You have to have flour. You have to look at the amount of flour. You don't just say, okay, the isarin is full. With the sa'or, we have an isarin. No, it has to be the right consistency and concentration of flour in the sar as well. Frektimar, okay, so v'lishkal portamine v'lichmitzei me'avroi v'leilish v'nelusha badei. I have a simple solution that will make Rabbi Yehuda happy and Rabbi Meir happy. Because when we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir didn't like Rabbi Yehuda because if you bring sar from the outside, it might not be the right amount. And Rabbi Yehuda didn't like Rabbi Meir because if you just try to let some of it become chametz minei ubei, it won't grow fluffy enough. So I have a simple solution. Take a couple of grams of flour from this isarin, pre-measured, make that into sa'ar, and then put it back in. And now you know that you had it exactly in the isarin. It's so simple. Zok to Gemara, you can't do that. Gzeira dilma also alma. If people see you just bringing in sa'ar, they don't help that this sa'ar was made out of flour that you originally took out of this isarin. They'll think you're still bringing alma, and then other people will just add sa'ar in from an external source, which is not allowed. Just to get onto the Amar Aleph, we learned you cannot use as a fermenting agent bitapuchim, apples. I'm sorry, period. So the machlokes is what you're allowed to use as a leavening agent. Then we'll stop here, Hashem, and we'll be mamshech tomorrow.